In May 2025, we uncovered a list maintained by the Ohio Attorney General's office. It named every person who has broken Ohio's campaign finance rules and refused to take responsibility over the last 38 years. The fines are steep. The Ohio Elections Commission takes its penalty role seriously. But at the same time, millions of dollars in fines haven't been collected. Ohio Investigates, a team that includes WTOL and our sister stations in Cleveland and Columbus, examines whether your tax dollars are being used as efficiently as they should be. Ohio has been fining political candidates who violate campaign finance laws since the 1970s. Now, the fines currently on the books date to the 1980s, and they've ballooned to almost $100 million. Now, the problem is that none of this money is being collected, or very little of it at least. And the system put in place to deal with this issue is about to be eliminated. The Ohio Secretary of State is about to assume a very large bill.
They have been fining people and entities for years and not collecting the fines. Something close to $100 million in uncollected fines. Elections have consequences, and election law needs to be uniformly enforced.
But it's not. Our analysis of Ohio Elections Commission data shows 243 repeat violators across Ohio. Lucas County has some of the highest numbers, behind only Cuyahoga and Franklin counties. The fines range from $25 to $100 per day for each missed deadline or incomplete filing. For some candidates, those daily penalties have accumulated for years, and for some, it's shocking. Right here in Toledo, there are examples of the system not working.
We are now officially open.
Roberto Torres, running for mayor as an independent, was listed as owing $90,000. Now, Torres told us he resolved his case in 2019, paying a $250 fine with a cashier's check, a canceled check he brought for us to review, but he still appeared on the list in May.
After I was notified of it, I submitted the necessary documentation and I paid the fines. And so as far as my understanding, that's all been complete. So I know that there may be something else that's being showed, but to this date I haven't received anything different.
Now, because of our investigation, he reached out to the state. The Elections Commission emailed him on September 11th, confirming his account is closed and he owes no money. However, Alfonso Narvez, who ran multiple unsuccessful campaigns for Toledo City Council, actually does face fines of more than $110,000.
The most I ever raised on a campaign was like under $500. Never spent anything huge. When you compare the amount I spent on a campaign, less than $500 to this $92,000, it's a bit of a sticker shock, basically.
Both men point to a fundamental problem. Ohio's two-party system provides infrastructure and guidance to Democrats and Republicans, but leaves independents and minor party candidates navigating complex rules alone.
Very much so, very much so. And it's not just independents, and we're talking about alternative parties like the Libertarians as well.
Yeah, there's a lack of infrastructure. I would say there's not as much guidance. There's a lot that goes into running a campaign. It's just not getting the name out there and saying, hey, I'm gonna run and hope for the best. Like, there's a lot of background stuff that goes into it, ethics reports and just different types of filings.
Lucas County Board of Elections Director Lavera Scott explains the process. Candidates get 21 days to fix filing errors. If they don't comply, cases get referred to the state elections commissions for fines.
Everything that you do in reference to your campaign finance account requires documentation. And that's the thing I always tell people. If you're in doubt, first of all, go read the book. And then you can always call our office. We get calls all the time to say, hey, I had a fundraiser, somebody donated this to me, do I have to list that? Yes, you should still list those donations.
Scott says issues often arise when an account isn't properly closed.
If I am not raising money or I'm no longer on the ballot, I could close my account, right? So you have that option. You know, you can have your option to properly close your account so you don't continue to receive notices and you don't continue to be fined.
Now, the Elections Commission has limited enforcement power. Executive Director Philip Richter says once fines are imposed, collection becomes the Attorney General's responsibility.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some of the same criticisms of the new Integrity Commission as it relates to fines, because again, they can send out notice, they can do certain things, but if something's not paid, then it goes to the Attorney General's office, and there's nothing else that really at that point that new commission can do.
The result? $96 million in fines accumulating since 1987, with little actual collection. And as Richter says, Ohio's budget eliminates the Elections Commission by January 1st, transferring cases to a new commission within the Secretary of State's office. And right now, local officials have little idea what that means.
In the interim, we have, just been told we're basically in a waiting stage to find out what will happen, after that time. Who will be the ones doing it? Who will we be sending any type of referrals to? We're still doing the things we must do in reference to auditing.
I hope that they're able to deal with them better, but I think they're going to have a lot of the same issues that the current commission has, to be honest with you.
The uncollected fines represent more than just unpaid penalties. In Ohio's nearly $100 billion budget, only $400,000 is allocated to the Elections Commission. The money owed could be used to fund the commission for more than 200 years, or be transferred to Ohio's general fund for other purposes. Critics argue the system discourages grassroots candidates while failing to achieve its primary goal, ensuring transparency in campaign finance.
It's a deterrent for someone who wants to make change. It makes it very difficult for them to want to run. It's discouraging.
Now, many of the candidates aren't completely clear on what they owe. Alfonso, for instance, said he owes about $90,000, but the true number is around $110,000. Now, Ohio's campaign finance rules appear to fall the hardest on candidates who aren't established. If grassroots campaigning is the bedrock of our political system, there are indications that the political foundation in Ohio may be eroding. Peter Fleischer from WKYC in Cleveland has this report.
I can only guarantee that I will serve the entire district.
Roz McAllister's political ambitions feel like ancient history.
I'm Roz McAllister, and I wrote this message.
She ran for the Ohio House back in 2006, 2008, and 2010, followed by a Cleveland City Council campaign in 2013. Nearly 20 years after she first ran, there's one aspect she can't leave behind.
It's laughable. What are they going to do? They can't even sell my body for science to get the money.
According to data from the Ohio Elections Commission, McAllister owes over $257,000 in political debt, and she's far from the only one. 3 News uncovered more than $96 million owed by over 1,100 former candidates statewide. Some accounts date back to 1987, older than the Elections Commission itself.
I was running a campaign on the BP plan. That's called the back pocket. My money, okay?
Data shows most of the debt and debtors come from Cuyahoga County. Over $28 million across 334 accounts.
It's a bigger pool. It's like shooting fish in a barrel to a certain degree.
Philip Richter, executive director of the Ohio Elections Commission, says Cleveland's size and many surrounding suburbs means more elections, more candidates, and consequently, more debt.
They work really hard to get people to come into compliance, and they're more than willing to do almost anything to help somebody come into compliance, but they're also more than willing to send somebody down to the commission if they don't come into compliance.
McAllister says she knew she owed money, spent on mailers, flyers, and ads even after tight budgeting, but had no clue of the total after years of fines.
How they can come up with these numbers is beyond me.
We contacted nearly a dozen debtors from the state's list. Aspiring council members, former mayors, even simple activists. None of them knew their total amount, and more than half admitted they didn't know they owed at all. One debtor who works for Cuyahoga County showed us paperwork from the state that seemingly dismissed their debt more than 20 years ago. But they're still listed as owing nearly $500,000. The Elections Commission pushed back against the idea that the system works against anyone.
Campaign finance laws, are written in the statutes, and they don't look at where you're coming from, or how much money you got.
The Constitution was written so that grassroots was the way it was supposed to be. But we've gotten now to where you have to have thousands and thousands of dollars if you want to win. I'm here to serve all.
While McAllister never won office, she ran because she wanted to make a difference. She worries future candidates will be deterred.
There are a lot of smart people who could do the city, the county, the state great advantage. They don't want to deal with it because of all of this.
Now, the Ohio Elections Commission, overseeing campaign finance rules and enforcement, will be disbanded by the end of the year. A new entity under the Ohio Secretary of State will then take over. So the question we wanted answered, will anything actually change? Rochelle Aline from WBNS in Columbus put that question directly to the Secretary of State.
Very good. We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
For the Ohio Elections Commission, or OEC,
I would like to know what I did wrong and what I can do to fix it.
this is the work, making sure candidates and political groups are transparent about their money.
The question is, where do I pay my fine?
And collecting fines when they're not. It's work they've been doing since 1974. But their efforts have recently been heavily criticized by state lawmakers who say they're not collecting enough. Data from the OEC shows candidates owe about $96 million in outstanding fees, and $6 million of that is connected to Central Ohio. We took that number directly to the Commission's longtime executive director, who told us the OEC doesn't have the power to make anyone pay.
If we don't get a payment from someone, we're obligated to send it along to the Attorney General's office for collection. And we do that. We do that on a fairly regular basis.
Citing that backlog, this past budget session, lawmakers decided to pull funding for the commission. And on January 1st, they'll launch a new 5-member Ohio Elections Integrity Commission under the Secretary of State's office. We sat down with the outgoing OEC vice chair.
Was that the right call? It was absolutely not the right call, and I've said this in multiple interviews before, and I'll continue to say it.
She says the OEC needed more teeth and staff to do its job effectively, but she worries that decisions by the new bipartisan commission could become politically skewed.
It leads me to question, will it really be balanced and fair?
We're going to show people.
We took that question directly to Secretary of State Frank LaRose.
It's going to have the bipartisanship that it needs. It's also going to have the accountability of the buck stops here, and that's how it should be.
LaRose told us his office has already made a hire for the commission.
We found a gentleman named Jim Wernicke, a longtime investigator and a public safety professional with law enforcement background with the State Highway Patrol.
The other 4 commission members will be chosen by State House and Senate leaders of both major parties. And once they're up and running, LaRose tells us the commission's first goal will be to figure out how to get those outstanding fines paid.
We need to begin the collection actions, get court orders so that you can garnish wages, put liens on properties, turn them over to collection agencies and that kind of thing, and really start to make sure that those fines are enforced.
So the new commission launches in January, and you can be sure we'll be watching how it all unfolds. Thanks for tuning in to Ohio Investigates. See you next time.